John Klingberg, I'm so fascinated with this guy. We talked about this on July 1st, like what he could potentially bring to the table. Now that we get closer to training camp, what's your expectation? What is a fair expectation for John Klingberg? If you do recall a couple years back, and I'm not the first one to say this, he hasn't been the same player since he reportedly turned down an 8-year extension worth $66 million for the Dallas Stars because he thought he was worth more potentially on the open market. Now, clearly, it hasn't gone his way. He was dreadful last year, defensively, offensively, and I think if there's a team who can figure him out offensively, it's the Leafs with all those guns on that roster. With all due respect to Dallas and Anaheim and Minnesota, the three teams previous that Klingberg has suited up for, they're not the Maple Leafs. They don't boast what they have up front. So I want to know what your expectation is first and foremost for a guy like John Klingberg this season.
Yeah, well, I think I've said it before. It's difficult and it's kind of crazy when you bring a player into a market like Toronto and you say, all right, he's going to be better than ever. It is difficult to get there. There's pressure. What do you think? You walk into Anaheim's barn on a Tuesday night and you can't perform. You think you're going to walk in Saturday night to Toronto's barn and have all that going on in the media after pregame skate and trying to have your pregame nap and driving to the rink and seeing those lights flashing on top of the Scotiabank Center and all the fans screaming as you're pulling your car down to the parking lot and you take that elevator ride up and you get there and holy smokes, I'm playing in the big show tonight. It's hard to perform and it's hard to have that on your shoulders. That being said, this team I think is set up to suit him a little bit better. You know, a puck moving defenseman like him, he can get that puck into those guys' hands, start chipping off some points. Their power play starts clicking on all cylinders and you're chipping off points. You're rattling off points. All of a sudden people are talking about you like, hey, this guy's great. Hey, you're a stud. He starts to feel the confidence that he did in that, 2018 when he had his last, standout season. And that could happen. What I want him to do is play with bloody confidence, right? Stay in position. Don't make high-end risks. Don't try to reinvent the wheel out there. Let it come to you. Let the supporting cast around you support you. Stay in position. You don't want to be getting scored on all the time. That's a good way to start losing confidence and struggling with the puck. A guy last year that I saw that came to the team that did it well was Luke Schenn. I know they're completely different players, but he snapped that puck around with confidence. He wasn't always in the greatest position, but he never had that look of fear on his face. He snapped it around. And, playing with the fear of making a mistake, it's very difficult to play. I played my entire career scared of making a mistake. You could see it on my face out there. You're scared and you're worried. And I watched Schenner last year, and he was just snapping that thing with authority. You're still going to make mistakes. It's the NHL. They're gonna get up on you sometimes, and your puck's going to fall into their hands. You can't worry about that. And I want to see John Klingberg out there making moves with authority, staying in position, building his confidence up, and we can start to reveal that player that he's been in the past. I think that's the best case scenario on where to go forward if you're John Klingberg. You can't get caught up in the mist, and you certainly can't get intimidated by the market of Toronto.
So a couple of things. I'd say 10 goals, 50 points is a fair sort of barometer for John Klingberg. I want to see somebody who can push Morgan Rielly for the first power play QB duties. Like, it's no state secret, Morgan Rielly was terrible in the regular season last year. Of course, we don't remember that because he was phenomenal in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So what Morgan Rielly will we see this season? If it's the one that we saw in the regular season, I want to see somebody push him for playing time. And ultimately, that does something to a player's head when they're not in the first power play unit and they're getting paid like PP1 QB, right? So can Klingberg do that? He's not really known for his defensive prowess. Like, I'm thinking that he's going to play with Jake McCabe, which I think is a perfect start for him in Toronto. And I think you're bang on. Like, just don't make mistakes. Almost becomes sort of like an afterthought where we're not talking about John Klingberg, because I think the residual points will come just from being on the ice with the big boys, no?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, you look around and all of a sudden, oh shit, he's racking up some points.
Yeah.
He's helping out. He's the guy that, you were going to get out there that's going to get the puck into those hands and make that seam pass and hold the line when need be and back off when not, and just make those quiet decisions. Like, we don't need him to come out and be the first star of every game and make this huge wild splash. As a defenseman, sometimes the best game you can have is where nobody noticed you out there, but you have two apples on the score sheet, and you start to do that. And all of a sudden, like I said, you want that confidence to start to build. He doesn't have to make a huge flashbang right as the season starts. Let him get his feet, let him get acclimated, let him get his confidence, let it build. And he's going to quietly, hopefully, have a good season and build and build and build. And then all of a sudden, he starts to find his old form. And then all of a sudden, he is that guy that you say, holy, he was a big reason we won tonight, or he took control of that ice the whole time. I noticed him every other shift. And then that starts to take, control, and he can become that player that he has potential to be. But it doesn't just happen overnight, and you can't expect him just to do it on day one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We have to temper our expectations, especially when a player as fragile as John Klingberg comes into this market. But again, I totally understand why the player and the agent chose this team. It makes a lot of sense, especially as an offensive defenseman. What better place than to play in Toronto with the big boys up front to maybe rack up some points and reestablish yourself on the free agent market?